Hey. So, from seeing from this video, you can see that I am dressed in my pajamas. And looking at my body language, you can see I'm tired. Now, you're probably thinking, am I tired for what reason? Did I have a long day at work? Was I out for a long period of time today? No. Basically, I was tired because I just watched Chelsea play. And being a Chelsea fan and a Chelsea season ticket holder, this season has provided me with no joy, no fun, and certainly no entertainment. Watching Chelsea this season has just been a record player on repeat. Every single game has just been the same typical performance that has shown lackluster displays, lack of creativity, and certainly no ruthlessness up front, and a very soft belly on every area of the pitch. Now, watching Chelsea, they played Man City in the FA Cup in the third round, in the first stage of the tournament. And surprise to surprise, they went out with a whimper. And now, from what I've seen, the manager's come under increasing pressure. He's basically been on the interview press, comparing himself as a robot to thinking that he talks to some sort of can, and he's just having his very chuckle laughing mood with the interviewers there, thinking that he is some sort of tough cookie. But in some sense, I don't believe he is. I think he's somehow come across as a yes man for the owner, and it's certainly shown that there's more worse to come than is actually getting better. Now, speaking about the performance against Man City today, we lost 4-0, and to anyone's surprise, it wasn't so much of a surprise. It was kind of expected, really. The performances have been some of the most lackluster and some of the most depressing football I have seen for a very long time. Even I've seen Chelsea at their worst, there was always sort of a sign that they had a squad that could get better, and they had certainly some leaders in that team that can sort of get the most out of the team, out of the squad, and certainly how they can really work with the manager. Right now, I've seen no leadership, and I've certainly seen no tactical nous from the manager, and I've certainly seen a board that is just willing to just throw cash at anything that suits him for anyone that is considered a top target on the radar that could just either break their release clause in their contract, whether it's 100 millions or so of pounds to be spent, and certainly doesn't really make any sort of difference in the way that this improves the squad for the long term. Because certainly right now, it looks like a squad that has got no legs, no steam, and it's certainly become more of an aging team that relies heavily on vast experience to some youth players who never play and certainly don't have the experience to really compete at this top level. Now, one thing that's always been a very much a surprise to me, especially listening to some Chelsea fans, is just how reluctant they are just to give time for the manager. Certainly, there is no guarantee that giving time to a manager is always going to lead to success. And certainly, what I've seen at Chelsea, they're never really a club that will ever give time. They would always look at the manager for the short term. It's about getting the results, and certainly getting the results guarantees the position that the manager will be in. And somehow Chelsea fans thinking this is some sort of project, they want to kind of give a transfer window to Graham Potter, which I can sort of get because, it's not a squad that he wanted, so obviously people will come up with that for. But at the same time, you have the squad right now at your disposal. You have to kind of make the most of the situation now. Now, yeah, granted, he's now got so many players injured. It's not really easy for him, weekday, weekend to sort of pick a squad that's going to work. But in the meanwhile, there's no sort of signs of improvement in terms of the way we're playing. It's always just a game that we seem to lack the creativity in when we receive the ball in the middle. When we get the ball in the middle, we don't have any sort of outlet to look forward. It just seems to me that the only outlet comes from the wings of the pitch to going backwards. And that is such a frustrating issue. Like every single time I've seen a rotation in this squad, there doesn't seem to be an improved dynamic, whether it's making substitutions to the starting 11. Nothing ever seems to improve with this team. And I feel like sometimes you need to put the emphasis on the manager. At the end of the day, this is how he tactically sets this team up, and we can't sort of, think naively to think if we give a manager time, that's always going to guarantee us to be in a position where we're somehow miraculously going to be better. So there's that aspect that I'm going to talk about. But certainly the performances are not looking good. And today has been just an embarrassment today. There's just been a very much a lack of threat up front. Certainly we have a very sort of soft belly in every area. It's not one area or it's not one player. It's everywhere. Forward, midfield, defense, goalkeeper. There's always seems to be an issue every single time. And I, for one, believe that there needs to be a sort of a rechanging structure where we actually have good, competent people to run this club properly, to really identify the issues. And certainly the manager has been one issue. Certainly the issue has to rely on the coaching staff, the training staff. Like, who's responsible for conditioning these players? Who? Like, I don't understand why these players all the time, when they come back from injury, will get injured again. They have a reoccurring injury, and we get more players on the injury list. Like, what are we doing on a training ground? How are these players getting conditioned, and how are they getting rehabilitated? What is going on? So really, really, lots of questions need to be answered for. It's not good enough. Now, one of the things right now I would say I'm not impressed with Graham Potter is his recent interview. Now, in his recent interview, in his match preview of the Man City Chelsea game, he kind of took his claws out. He was fiery in an angry mood, trying to sort of, get back at his critics in some sense, the sort of thing to take some sort of pride. And to be honest with you, it didn't really help out. He kind of hit back at the interviewers who kind of spoke about fans' concerns about recent performances, saying they're not good enough, and usually that will get a manager sacked. And he kind of hit back saying, "Oh, I'm not really interested in following social media, listening to these people as just some sort of, unintellectual people who don't understand football or anything like that." So it came across like he kind of ignored the fans' concerns, which didn't come across very well. And I think right now it's kind of biting him a little bit, because in the recent game against Man City, it now kind of backfired because they recently started chanting Thomas Tuchel's name. Personally, for me, I kind of think they have to move on with him. It kind of wasn't working. Parts of the end of last season, and certainly the start of this season, where results were not good enough. But it just shows that the fans have been very frustrated, and it certainly hasn't really worked or manifested itself very well. It seems that it's not the signs of improvement. It seems to be a long way off, and it's certainly not looking good right now, and especially until the end of the season. But yeah, certainly this season, Chelsea definitely doesn't look like the club that I'm used to watching. It certainly looks like a team from far off from 2 seasons ago from winning the Champions League. I really do struggle to really think that Chelsea will ever really get back to their best again. I think this is now a real time where, under the new ownership, and certainly it looks like a new structure, it seems like things are going to really take a very long time for things to get better. And yeah, that's about it. See you later.